If you had to make a choice, Mark, if you were Sean Payton and you needed to bring someone in, would you call up Cam Newton or Phillip Rivers first?
Oh, Phillip Rivers is the better quarterback. I mean, with what you want to do and the way you want to run your offense, you already have essentially a Cam Newton that plays quarterback for you, although he's, I think out with a concussion right now, but Taysom Hill is that, a guy that can run, a guy that probably, from a passing skill set, probably doesn't have the greatest passing skill set in the world, but you already got that. You already got that aspect of your offense covered. So, yeah, I mean, if that's the direction you're going to go and you don't trust the people in your own building, then it would be Phil Rivers.
Mark, we were just discussing Wentz. Like, can you is it injuries? Is it head games? I don't know, because we were just discussing. I remember watching him early on, where you're like, this guy is the next greatest thing ever, and then it's just not close to that right now. In your opinion, what's happened?
Well, I mean, anytime last year he played like 12 games and he got sacked 50 times. I mean, I'll tell you guys, I picked up the ball once as a rookie, and it attracts a lot of attention. And, there's a couple of things you realize sometimes, depending on what position you play. I realized that I could have never been a running back, or I don't really like to get hit. I would rather do the hitting than be the hittee. And you take 50 sacks in a season, and offensively, you guys are garbage in the last couple of years with injuries and everything else. Those things take their toll on a player mentally. Not only physically, but mentally they take their toll on a player. And, the left-handed throw was just insanity. That was just stupid. But, that stuff wears you down. It beats you down mentally. And, he's had some games this year so far where he's actually played really good football. But still he's had, both of his ankles have been twisted, and he's had some health issues. So, yeah, I still think he's trying to, find his way back to where he's playing, at a high enough level and where he feels comfortable. And those things are real, that, like I said, you get sacked 50 times in 12 games or whatever it is, and it'll make you see ghosts.
With Mark Schlereth from the NFL on Fox, longtime NFLer. So Derrick Henry, crushing blow to him, breaks his foot. He's going to have surgery tomorrow. He's out for an extended period of time, anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks. So maybe he comes back at the end of the regular season or into the playoffs. And we're just saying before you came on, Mark, I think they're going to make it anyway because of the nature of that division. We just talked about Wentz. I don't trust him. And Jacksonville and Houston suck. So Tennessee, I think 8 or 9 wins is going to get them in anyway. So is it as doom and gloom if the big picture is trying to have playoff success? If Henry can return for the playoffs, what should the mood be like down in Tennessee?
Yeah, well, I mean, the one thing about Henry is the guy is legit 6'3" and 250, 255. And the amount of stress you put on your feet, I don't think, nobody ever talks about it until somebody's got like turf toe or a foot injury. The pounds per square inch a guy like that's going to put on his foot when he's cutting and making his moves, I highly doubt that guy is coming back for the playoffs. They just, maybe it happens, who knows, but it just doesn't feel likely at all. But you're right. They're a good football team. They've already signed Adrian Peterson to their practice squad. So, and that dude can roll out of bed and hang 60, 70 yards on you. I mean, even though he's old, he just still is just a freak of nature. So they've added him to the practice squad. We'll see if there's a pending trade that may come down the pike, like a Melvin Gordon out of Denver or something of that nature. I don't know. But this is still a really good team, and they're really a hard play-action football team. Tannehill has been very successful running that style of offense, and then getting out on the edge as well. So I don't see them changing much. I don't see things, changing the way they run the ball and the way they run their offense. So it'll be a challenge. I mean, that's just the way it goes. But I just don't see a lot changing for the Tennessee Titans. And I think you hit the nail on the head. The rest of the division stinks, so you're going to make the playoffs regardless.
Mark, what do you take away from yesterday? Is Dallas living up to the hype machine? We were talking about Minnesota at the beginning of the show, and it's like if you're a fan of that team, like you've got to about seen enough, no? I mean, what is your takeaway from that affair yesterday?
Yeah, well, I mean, the bottom line is, how Kirk Cousins on primetime, right? Primetime, any primetime game Kirk Cousins plays.
But
I
what
don't
does
know what
that
his record
mean,
is.
though? Like,
sucks.
does that
He
mean
can't
he
win.
chokes, or like? I
He
love
does
when
not
people
win on
come.
primetime. Does not do it.
Yeah, you know what? Just try to cancel all the primetime games if you can. I don't know what is it that you're not having success in those situations? And again, I will say this about Dallas. Dallas has really figured it out. When you can win with a backup quarterback, and the way they're playing defense under Dan Quinn right now, and Micah Parsons is a one-man wrecking crew for crying out loud, and what's the kid's name? Diggs, that just gets an interception every game. I mean, they really are the class, obviously, of the NFC East, but when you can win games in those situations on the road and all that kind of stuff, it says a lot about your football team. So look at Dallas. You can hype them up all you want. I'm not going to argue at all, even though I hate the Cowboys, but you should hate the Cowboys, right? Unless you're from Dallas, everybody else in the league should hate the Cowboys. That's just the way I feel about them. So. But they're a damn good football team right now. There's no question about that. And, you just can't put any money on Minnesota when it comes to they have found a way to keep everybody in ball games. I mean, their record is not very good. I don't think they're one game under 500, whatever it is. But they have been in every flipping ball game and have just found a way at the end to lose games. I mean, they keep everybody in it. So that's just kind of who they are right now.
With Mark Schlereth. So, big trade in the NFL today. Von Miller traded from Denver to the Rams. The Rams sending out 2 day 2 picks. And the Rams, that's all they do is just trade picks, and they're all in every single year. But before we get to the Rams side of it and what it means for them and their chances of pursuing a Super Bowl, Denver's 500. They had a great start. They're 3-0. They're 1-4 since. Clearly, it's not going so well. But they're 4-4, and they're trading Von Miller. What do you think the mood is like in that locker room?
Well, I think the mood before that, they know they're not good. And the four wins you had, you beat the Giants, you beat Jacksonville, you beat the Jets, and now you beat Washington. I don't know what the collective records of those teams are, but it's somewhere between Drek and a big pile of turd. So that's kind of what those records are. So you've beaten 4 teams that aren't any good. They're not a good football team. That's the bottom line. They're just not very good. And I think the general manager understands that there's going to be wholesale changes, not only on the roster, but the coaching staff. That coaching staff is not going to be there next year. That's apparent. And so this is a guy for the first time in a long time. They've got George Payton over there, new general manager. He is basically saying, we're in the rebuilding process, guys. Like this pipe dream of, hey, we're close, we're a player or two away, like they've been telling us for the last 6 years. He's come in, he's evaluated this organization. They've had a lot of injuries. He said, we're not close. So I'm going to start doing things and start making the moves so we can build this roster when we have a new coach and we go out there and find a young quarterback, or we trade for somebody who's a veteran, like a really good quarterback. But at this point, even at 4-4, we don't have a chance of making the playoffs. We're not good enough to make the playoffs. So I'm going to start the rebuilding process now. And to get a second and third rounder for Von Miller, I'm shocked. That's to me, what he just did to get that second and third rounder that's big time for the Broncos. It's a big time win.
Well, and I think that's clearly the Rams, like the leverage is with anyone that the Rams call, because the Rams just make it abundantly clear they'll pay the price. They're all in, right? Like they'll whatever you need, we're going to do it. Like they've been trading first round picks since 2016. They're not going to have one until like 2024 or something. And the Rams, they had made it clear before they made this deal that they believe they can win a Super Bowl, and that's what they're pursuing. How does this help them get there? When you add a guy like Von Miller to a defense that already has a lot of talent and an offense that is chugging at this point with Matt Stafford?
Yeah, well, I think a couple of things. You always talk about complementary football and pass rush and the symbiotic relationship between pass rush and pass coverage. And, they've got a lot – obviously, Jalen Ramsey is one of the best corners in football, if not the best cover corner in football. But they've got some other young guys in their defensive secondary. Now all of a sudden, I mean, they play a two-shell kind of zone defense on the back end. That's what they want to major in for the most part. Your eyes are on the quarterback, and you've got that pass rush ability. I mean, that's going to create turnovers. That's going to create opportunities for your offense to have more possessions. And then Aaron Donald is the best football player on the planet. I mean, the guy is the guy. He doesn't have to register a statistic, and he absolutely wrecks football games. I mean, wrecks them. And at every time, every play, you got to figure out how to get four hands on him, right? You got to double team him every single time. Then you got Leonard Floyd on one edge. You got Von Miller coming off the other edge. I don't know. And I grew up in the NFL. My first team was Washington, and Joe Gibbs was the coach. And they had a philosophy. Bobby Beathard was general manager. They had a philosophy. We'll trade an unknown commodity for a known commodity. I mean, still, the first-round picks, still 50% of them fail, or over 50% of them fail. There's a bunch of busts. There's a bunch of guys that are just also-rans. Yeah, you hit a few times. Every now and again you'll hit one. But if you know, like you trade for Matthew Stafford and you know you have one, why wouldn't you trade a first-rounder for a guy who's proven, a guy who's, to me, an elite-level player? Von Miller is an elite player, and he was playing really great at the first 3-4 games of the season. He slowed down a little bit, and he had the ankle injury, but he's healthy. I mean, they are going to be an absolute fierce defense. And I don't know how you block them. You can't double team everybody unless you get nobody out and pass. You just like, hey, we're gonna keep all 11 in, and I mean, obviously they have done something to me that obviously puts them right on the top for me as the Super Bowl favorite.